File item 216, pass and retain. File item 217, AB 2591. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2591 by Assemblymember DeBobney and others, an act relating to insurance.
Mr. DeBobney.
Mr. Chair, colleagues, AB 2591 would expand consumers' ability to transcribe specified insurance documents electronically for those consumers who choose to opt in. All existing consumer protections and a free look provision under current law remain intact, and this bill is something that can only be done through an opt-in process for e-delivery at any time. AB 2591 will modernize California law and gives consumers the power to choose what delivery style works for their lifestyle. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this opt-in, consumer-friendly bill.
Thank you, Mr. DeBobney. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tie the vote. Ayes 73, no 0. Measure passes. File item 218. Let's pass temporarily on file item 218. File item 219, AB 1785. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1785 by Assemblymember Quirk and others, an act relating to vehicles.
Dr. Quirk.
Thank you, Speaker and members. AB 1785 updates the law on texting while driving to provide clarity to both law enforcement and the public about what activities are not allowed behind the wheel. It addresses a code section that is so woefully out of date that the judicial system and law enforcement have pleaded for clarity to be given. The bill prohibits using a phone while in the driver's hand and requires that a phone be mounted on the dashboard when in use. It allows a driver to use a single swipe or tap to respond to an app. This part was added to allow Uber, Lyft, and other companies to be able to proceed as they do now. The bill thus addresses safety and also allows interaction similar to what is done today to tune a radio or turn on the heat. Smartphones have a plethora of other features that demand a driver's attention and lead to very dangerous behavior, but that are not clearly prohibited by law, such as entering a GPS address while holding the phone in your hand, which is very similar to texting. In 2015 alone, there were 900 injury collisions and 12 fatal crashes in California where handheld cell phones use was the cause of distraction. In keeping with this Assembly's prior working to reduce distracted driving, I ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Quirk. Mr. Rodriguez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of AB 1785. Members, due to my EMS background, I've seen many horrific accidents due to the result of drivers driving while texting or on their phones. This bill gives a common sense measure that will save lives. It also gives law enforcement the tools they need to enforce the law and prevent accidents. Requesting an aye vote on AB 1785.
Mr. Lackey, you are recognized.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Members, just real quickly, my 28 years with the California Highway Patrol, I understand that traffic can be a very dangerous place for drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. We all know from statistics and from personal experience, I can tell you that distracted driving is an enemy to all of us. This bill will discourage drivers from dangerous behavior and will actually help law enforcement have the tools necessary to take action against those who are acting irresponsibly. I urge support for distracted driving in every medium and hope we give officers the tools to cut down on drugged driving as well. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Lackey. Mr. Frazier, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I rise in strong support as a co-author of this measure to prohibit handheld cell phone use while driving. Many of you know I've carried many distracted driving bills since I've been in the legislature. Every day, 9 people are killed and over 1,000 people are hurt in crashes where distractions were reported as the cause. According to the latest data from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, over 3,000 people were killed and an estimated 424,000 were injured in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. AB 1785 is an important measure that will save lives by getting wireless devices out of drivers' hands. I commend my colleague from Hayward for bringing this measure forward, and I urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Mr. Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You know, I may be the only one rising on the floor in opposition to this measure. We do a lot of things in California that just really, they overstep. And I really, because I have my colleague smiling at me, I really have to relate his story. You know, we're giving felons so many rights. You know, now we'll create felons potentially out of people that are doing innocuous things with their cell phones while driving. But not to worry, you'll still be able to vote and you can appeal your sentence for the next 5 years. So, in any event, to get to the merits of this bill, listen, there's so many things you can't do in California today. I truly dare anyone in this entire chamber to stand up if you've never used your cell phone while driving. I mean, that's absolute absurdity. So, permission to read, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
Thank you very much. Very simply, this bill imposes a broad prohibition that arbitrarily covers innocuous activities and amidst other sources of driver distraction, and creates a pretext for aggressive enforcement. And I'd like to tip my hat to our CHP officer, our former CHP officer, and my former seatmate. You know, I love to give these guys plenty of reasons to pull us over, but I think there's already enough. This bill prohibits drivers from operating smartphones while driving in any context, but does not define this term. As a result, the ban covers even innocuous or incidental uses. In refusing to apply such a broad reach to existing law, the 5th District Court of Appeals noted that banning any use of smartphones would lead to absurd results. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an absurd law, and this is an absurd bill that I hope does not become a law. There's already too many prohibitions in California. We don't need to add this to the list.
Point of order. I'm sorry, Mr. Calderon, state your point of order.
Yes, please ask our good member friend from Huntington Beach to please speak to the merits of the bill.
That point of order is well taken, Mr. Calderon. I believe you were concluding, Mr. Allen.
Absolutely, and I mean, I believe that was the merits of the bill. To use, to requote the court, this bill would lead to absurd results, and I think that's enough said right there.
Seeing no additional discussion or debate on the item, Dr. Quirk, you may close.
Again, we've worked very hard with law enforcement to make sure this is a precise bill. That's the whole point here. Don't hold the phone in your hand, and if you're going to tap or swipe, that's okay, but have it mounted. What we don't want is people entering data in for GPS data and other things. Today, that's not considered texting, but it's basically the same thing. So law enforcement doesn't have the bright line they need. This would give them that bright line. Thank you very much, members and Speaker.
And with that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote. All members vote who desire to 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 vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 42, noes 19. Measure passes. All right, items 220 through 223 pass and retain. Moving to file item 224 for the purpose of amendments. Clerk will read with amendments.
Assembly Bill 2880 with amendments by Assemblymember Stone.
Mr. Stone on the amendments.
On the amendments, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. The amendments before you clarify that though the state is allowed to create copyrightable works, the presumption will be that public domain unless certain other steps are followed. It is also clarified to be sure that local jurisdictions are not ever able to use copyright as an excuse for not disclosing documents under a otherwise valid Public Records Act request. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on these amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Seeing no additional discussion or debate on these amendments, and without objection, we may take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File items 225 and 226 pass and retain. File item 227 also for the purpose of amendments. Clerk will read with amendments.
Assembly Bill 1940 with amendments by Assemblymember Cooper.
Mr. Cooper on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. These amendments protect existing body-worn camera policies developed through the collective bargaining process and prohibits the use in a health facility or medical office to maintain patient privacy. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Seeing no discussion or debate on the amendments and without objection, we may take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Bill is out to print and back on file. Members, I am going to go back in the file to file item 218 by Mr. Cooper. That's AB 1853. This is file item 218. Members, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1853 by Assemblymember Cooper, an act relating to county employees' retirement.
Mr. Cooper, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1853 provides all the 1937 Act county retirement systems the flexibility and autonomy to allow them to hire and retain the professional staff needed to manage retirement funds. Several 1937 Act counties already have the authority to hire and retain their own workforce. AB 1853 will allow the remainder of the retirement boards to do the same. This autonomy furthers the intent of the California Public Employees Pension Reform Act by giving the retirement boards the authority to better protect against unfunded liabilities by having day-to-day authority over its staff. The County Board of Supervisors will retain the ability to select the majority of the retirement board members, maintaining a position of oversight in the system. I have met with labor opposition and agreed to amendments in the Senate that will remove their opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Bonta, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise in support of AB 1853. The bill had an extensive hearing in the Assembly PERS Committee. It passed out at that time on a 4-0 on a bipartisan vote. I didn't vote for it at that time because I felt it needed a little more work to satisfy some of the concerns of the opponents, and the author has put in that extra work and done that work, and he has amendments that are prepared that will be taken in the Senate to address some of the opposition from employees who originally opposed the bill. So I'll be voting on this bill today on the floor. I encourage you to do the same, and we can hear it in the Assembly PERS Committee again if we need to when it comes back on concurrence. So I appreciate the author's work on this bill. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Bonta. Seeing no additional discussion, yes, Mr. Allen.
Thank you very much. I thought there was another mic up, so I apologize for that late mic. As a member that's all too familiar with county finance issues, I started in the business 20 years ago in Orange County. You might recall we had a countywide bankruptcy. So I've seen firsthand what problems with the retirement system can look like. I have to rise in opposition to this measure, and I'll tell you why. Allowing any retirement system under the County Employees Retirement Law of 1937 to elect to become an independent district by a simple vote of the Board of Retirement would eliminate local control. It eliminates transparency, and lastly, it'll add cost. But the biggest thing really is that it eliminates the vetting and the control that is so essential to make sure that these retirement plans keep their solvency and that the public is involved in every step of the process. Currently, retirement systems operating under CERL, which again is the County Employees Retirement Law of 37, retain the ability to modify their operating systems by individually pursuing legislation to establish a different structure if they so choose. Through this process, a public analysis can be performed of the effects that such a change would have, and the details of the shift of authority of the retirement system boards can be vetted in a public forum. This bill would eliminate that public view. It would eliminate the conversation. Perhaps most troubling, it would require no notice or resolution of the change by the Board of Supervisors in those counties that originally adopted an ordinance to create the retirement system. Plainly stated, this is a bad bill. This is a disservice to the employees of the 20 retirement systems that would be affected by this bill. I urge no vote.
Mr. Cooley, you are recognized.
I rise to concur in the analysis of my colleague from Huntington Beach. I think the pension area is an extremely important one. I did not support the bill in committee. I think the case-by-case analysis that he described is what has happened in current law. I think for those who support pensions, keeping a close eye on what is happening in the broad realm of pensions is actually extraordinarily important for all the pension systems in California. So I urge a no vote on this bill.
Seeing no additional discussion or debate, Mr. Cooper, you may close.
I want to thank my colleagues from Huntington Beach and Rancho Cordova for their comments, but it's ironic that on the pension boards for the county system, there are 9 members on that board. 5 are appointed by the County Board of Supervisors. 5, a majority. The other 4 elected by the bodies. The county has no fiduciary duty to generate or protect retirees' investment. It falls solely on the retirement board. However, the counties get up to pick and choose the employees who work in the system. And I think of note, a lot of your 37 Act counties, in particular here in Sacramento County, their solvency rate is 86% for a 37 Act county. There are 20 37 Act counties, and it's a choice. It's not mandatory. It's optional. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
And with that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Cooper moves a call. Members, we are going to take up file item 228, AB 2036, by Ms. Lopez. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2036 by Assemblymember Lopez and others, an act relating to business.
Ms. Lopez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today, I'm pleased to present AB 2036, which will require online childcare service to provide a following information. 1, to provide information on California Translate Register, and 2nd, to provide description of the information, include the background check taken by the nanny and or the babysitter. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 62, no 0. Measure passes. We are going to pass and retain on file items 229 and 230. We are going to pass temporarily on file item 231. We're going to pass and retain on file items 232 through 234. We are moving to file item 235. That's AB 1771 by Mr. O'Donnell. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1771 by Assemblymember O'Donnell, an act relating to prostitution.
Mr. O'Donnell, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present AB 1771, which will help judges keep human traffickers behind bars. In recent years, commercial sexual exploitation has become a major source of illicit income for many individuals and criminal organizations. While law enforcement has had success curtailing human trafficking operations, their efforts can be hampered by victims refusing to testify due to the threat of retaliation. We have seen examples in Long Beach where criminals clearly in charge of these operations only serve a few months in jail due to a victim's fear of testifying. Judges need discretion to recognize when this crime is part of a larger operation so we can keep these traffickers behind bars. AB 1771 does this by increasing the penalties for those supervising these operations from 6 months to 1 year and clarifying the activities that can be used as evidence when prosecuting this crime. I want to be clear, this goes after the perpetrator, not the victim.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tie the vote. Ayes 67, noes 1. The measure passes. File item 236, passed and retained. File item 237, that's AB 1671. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1671 by Assemblymember Gomez and others, an act relating to confidential communications.
Mr. Gomez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1671 would make it a crime to distribute electronic communications that were illegally obtained without a person's consent for the private communications of healthcare providers. Currently, it is illegal to record on a video a private conversation without the consent of all parties, but it is not illegal to distribute it. In contrast, it is illegal to distribute the unauthorized illegal recording of a telephone conversation. This bill is closing a loophole in current law. I have taken significant amendments in order to work with the opposition and have narrowed this bill to apply to healthcare providers only. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Mr. Gallagher, you are recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, members, I rise in opposition to this bill. Members, we should really be thinking about, and I think we have several bills this year that really implicate First Amendment rights, free speech rights. And this bill directly implicates the First Amendment, especially the concern of the press, that this could ultimately penalize freelance reporters or journalists who distribute a truthful communication, although that communication may have been obtained illegally. First Amendment case law, the Supreme Court of the United States, clearly protects the publication by media of even illegally obtained communications by parties who are not participants in the illegal interception. That's the Bartnicki versus Vopper case, 2001. So this bill has a big chilling effect on documentaries and freelance journalism. Now, there's people on both the right and the left who support these kind of documentaries, freelance journalism that uncover corruption on both sides of the aisle. And I think no matter how you might fall on what I think is the motivation behind this bill, you should be very concerned about intrusions on free speech. So I would encourage members to really think about this one. We have, and there are going to be others to come. Let's protect the free speech rights of the press and our freelance journalists and documentarians out there who are helping to expose corruption in all areas of government and in industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Mr. David Chu, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill, and I want to thank the author for carefully crafting this bill in a way that does not impinge upon First Amendment rights. This is a bill that is focused solely on those who illegally record and then distribute private communications and those who intentionally aid and abet them knowing a law has been broken. The media and other third parties would not be liable under the penalties of this law unless they are intentionally participating in recording private conversations or communications without the consent of the participants activities that violate journalistic standards and ethics and would not be activities that I don't think any reputable journal would engage in. We also know that the constitutional right to free speech is not absolute. Free speech has to be balanced with other constitutional rights, and that includes an individual's right to privacy. And with that, I do think this is a measure that balances these constitutional rights, and ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Wagner, you are recognized.
I raise briefly to add one additional constitutional objection that exists in this bill. We're told that it's been narrowed significantly by the author. That is true. Normally, that's a good thing on this floor, but unfortunately, what it has led us to see is a bill that now, because it is sufficiently narrowed and is much more focused, is very clearly merely viewpoint discrimination, which in and of itself is a constitutional violation. So the purpose of narrowing has led us to trip over yet another constitutional obstacle, in addition to all of the First Amendment and free speech issues that are raised with this bill. So with that said, with all the constitutional problems this bill faces, I urge a no vote.
Madam Speaker Emeritus Atkins, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I appreciate the comments of my colleague from San Francisco, particularly in terms of the balance of rights when it comes to an issue of free speech. You know, I was a director of services for a women's health care clinic decades ago, and to this very day I can scan a room and tell you where the threats are, because I had to learn that. So when it comes to the issue of protection of rights, I think there is a need for us to remain vigilant, and I'll tell you why. Doctors, nurses, clinic workers, all that I hired in this industry know that they provide vital services to women in need, and they take steps necessary to protect those clients, the clinic, and themselves. But they shouldn't have to live in constant fear for their very lives and the lives of their loved ones where they live, or where their children go to school, or where they worship, or as they are trying to provide vital services. Clinics should not be battlegrounds. As a result, last year's illegally recorded video, some doctors have received death threats, have had their neighbors harassed, and have even been forced to sell their homes and relocate. I know all of these stories. I've lived it. This measure is consistent with current laws on disclosure for phone conversations. It protects the privacy of health care providers while upholding the First Amendment. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Emeritus. Seeing no additional discussion or debate on the item, Mr. Gomez, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just let me restate that this bill only deals with a person who illegally records and distributes private confidential conversations. The media and other third parties will not be liable and will not be impacted under this bill. Also, current law carves out public safety and law enforcement. That will not change. Current law permits anyone to record conversations evidencing the commission of serious crime, such as extortion, bribery, felonies, and violence against a person. That will not change. Current law explicitly exempts domestic violence. That will not change. And no, this law will not impact whistleblowers. So this law is narrowly crafted to make sure that it is constitutional, and it does do one thing. It does mean to protect doctor, nurses, and their patients, and to protect a woman's right to choose, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. With that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 47, noes 23. The measure passes. File item 238 is AB 1876. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1876 by Assemblymember Lopez, an act relating to pupils.
Ms. Lopez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today I rise to present AB 1876, which will create high school equivalency to exams in California. Vietnamese currently exams offering English and Spanish, and were recently available in French. Immigrants seeking to take those exams into the workplace qualify financial aid and recently applied for the Presidential Referral Action Program, known like DACA. Thank you, members. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 50, noes 23. Measure passes. File items 239 through 241. Pass and retain. File item 242 is AB 1779. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1779 by Assemblymember Gatto, and actually non-probate transfers.
Mr. Gatto.
AB 1779 updates California's immensely successful revocable transfer on death deed bill. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 64, no 0.